Hey people, it's Niall talking. Now, this is just really a stream of consciousness talking about some of the things that are on my mind. Some of you who've been my long-time followers, you've heard some of these before, so I just wanted to talk about this. Now, in my community post, some of you may have seen a few days ago, weeks ago, I can't even remember, where I talked about the Ukraine and the personal experience I had with some black females who were from Caribbean descent. And when I made fun of those 200 Nigerians volunteering to go over there and fight despite all the racism, and I said, Joe, anything for a passport, they were like, well, even if the racism, it's their choice to go fight. And I'm like, why is it that you're trying to find a way to justify fighting for people who hate you? And this kind of way of like morally redeeming these people, both the fighters and the Ukrainians. And when I made that post, I called them Krispy Kreme clowns because they just made me sick. They're more angry at me for making fun of the Nigerians going over there than they are for the Ukrainians leaving people to die. And it led me, and there was also a comment I left. It was about integration. And I said that Martin Luther King's speech that he's very famous for, the I Have a Dream speech, when you really think about it, it sounds good, but what it really means in reality is despicable. It really is. I have a dream that the sons of former slaves and former slave owners will sit down at the table of brotherhood. I dream that little white boys and little white girls will hold hands with little black boys and little girls. And what it really means in practice is that black people have a burden placed upon them to be the moral high ground, that they have to be the good people. They have to strive to be the better person. And you know what I mean? It's like, what? So it's always called upon black people. You know, you use Martin Luther King. You should stop arguing about racism because MLK would not want this. You should stop arguing for reparations. Now, a lot of these things he didn't stand for, but that speech and some of the things that he did really harm black people because, to be fair to him, it wasn't the only, a lot of this, it sort of existed in black culture and black consciousness to begin with, but he really made it an acceptable mainstream form of thought that black people's, that to be a good black man, woman, or person, you have to forgive. You have to be the moral high ground. You have to set an example to everybody else. You know, people may be discriminating against you, beating you, torturing you, but you should try and forgive them. And when you think about the stuff that has been done to black people, I mean, really go into it. It is so shocking. It makes the Holocaust look like child's play. It was that bad. And then to say that black people should forgive and want to get along with them is in itself barbaric. No other group of people is told that they have to get along, they have to try and make peace with those who oppress them. I'll give you an example. This was another Caribbean woman, and I said black Americans should have their own country. She said they have their own country. And I thought, why is it that black people are the only people who are told, no, you must make peace with your oppressor? And again, you have to make peace. It is not the priority of the oppressor to sort of make the peace. You need to act like that whole Jesus speech. If you are slapped on the right cheek, turn the left cheek. And you know, like I said, this whole thing of black people being urged to be the moral high ground. Nobody ever says to Jewish people, you know, if you, let's say if they were born and raised in Germany, if you do not love Germany, you're unpatriotic. Everybody knows that Germany betrayed the Jews and there is no going back after what they did. There is no making peace or having love and redemption after that. And nobody says anything to Jewish people because they're absolutely right to not get along with Germans. But with black people, everyone shames them. Oh, What would Martin Luther King think? Is this what Jesus would do? Yeah. And I think it has to stop. And it starts with disavowing a lot in Martin Luther King, because the things he said and stood for sound good, but are pretty stupid. Like non-violence in the face of violence. That only works when, both people are non-violent. But black people doing that. I remember this was a Malcolm X, what was it, interview or something, where somebody talked about when they met Malcolm X, and they had laid down in front of trucks or police cars or something, and Malcolm X said, "Don't you ever lay down in the street. Now, they may run you over and they may get arrested and go to jail, but you'll still be dead." And after he said that, I never did it again. And that's the type of thinking, common sense thinking. And even you don't necessarily have to be violent. If black people simply cut off the aid and support for people that hate them, it would be like 50% of the job. How many black inventions are stolen? I mean, people talk about cultural appropriation. Cultural appropriation only happens, and I'll be honest with you here, because so many black people are desperate to be accepted by other people. Come into the culture, come in and see this and take part. And for them to pat them on the back and say, "You're all right." Then they'll go back and then say, "I heard some great musical style." Then they're making platinum records, and people are looking at that saying, "Wait a minute, I can't even get a record deal, and he's got platinum deals. He's now being labeled the king of rock and roll, Elvis." And Elvis was just a pale imitation of the black artist he copied. And even a lot of these black inventions, you can trust and believe that a lot of them try to get someone white on board, and that enabled them to steal the inventions. Okay, and that's been some of that. I also want to talk about this other thing. Now, I was thinking back to when I read about a book about the Vietnam War, and I posted a lot of the pages from Vietnam. And one thing I was trying to say is that black people need to study Asian people, because of all the groups that have come close to defeating white supremacy and white people, it's been Asian people. In Korea, in Japan, in Vietnam, they have been the groups that have fought hardest and have really pushed white people to the point where they thought, you know what, maybe we might not win. Maybe we should just give up. In Korea, it was a draw. In Vietnam, it was an outright defeat. And I don't say this for people to end up like the Wu-Tang Clan, where people are Asian files and love Asian culture. I don't want people to start taking this as a cue to become friends with Asian people and sort of start trying to, trying to ingratiate themselves. It's just to learn other people's culture and understand them. Because just like I said way back in the video about talking about how to sell to the Negro, white people study black people. Black people don't study anybody at all. Black people don't even study other black cultures. That's why a lot of black people have difficulties when they meet other black nations, because they don't really understand the thought processes of these other black nations. But that's getting a bit off the topic. So anyway, this has just been a stream of consciousness. I hope this makes sense, and I hope somebody could take something away from it. Peace.